Come, come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, or some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. As we gather, we acknowledge the ground upon which we gather is the ancestral and current home of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. With humility, we begin to partner, to ally, and witness with our indigenous siblings and friends the bringing forth of a world healed to a greater wholeness. Good morning. My name is Tom. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't really asking for that, but that was great. Thank you. Welcome to everybody who's gathered here in our sanctuary and, of course, also on our online service. We especially extend a warm welcome to those who are here with us for the first, second, or third times. We're so glad you're here. We hope that you can engage with us and become part of our community. There are ways to sign up for the newsletter in the back, ways to engage, to get name tags, etc. We hope that you'll come and join us often.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our opening hymn, number 1029, and Sarah's going to lead us. So, we light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and the energy of action. You may be seated. Our opening reading this morning, which side do you want to be on? This side. Okay, we're having positional issues here. Our opening reading this morning is by Robert Frost. It's in two voices, mine and Tom's. It's Mending Wall. And what I love about this poem is it's a riff on that phrase, good fences make good neighbors. And unfortunately in our culture, people often credit it to Robert Frost as if he is the one that came up with that phrase. But in fact, his poem says otherwise. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. Gaps, I mean. No one has ever seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time, we find them there.
I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls, we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them.
Oh, just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side, it comes to little more. There, where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines. I tell him, he says only, good fences make good neighbors.
Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head, why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know. what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him.
But it's not elves, exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only in the shade of trees. He will not go beyond his father's saying. And he likes, having thought of it so well, he says again, good fences make good neighbors. And now it's time for our birthday blessing. We missed it at the beginning of January, so if you have a birthday in the month of January and you like stickers, please come forward right now. So on behalf of this community, we are so glad that you were born. We're so glad you were born. You make the world a better place with your presence and your care and your love, and we pray and hope and we'll walk with you through this year as you have all of the adventures, all of the challenges, all of the joys and all of the sorrows, and all of the just plain old regular days. Thank you for being a part of us, and may this birthday be a blessing that finds you throughout your year. And the people say, may it be so. Okay, you can go back to your seats.
All of these things, this wonderful community, the building that we meet in, the organization, the music, the things that we do, it's all made possible because of the time and talent and treasure that you contribute. So we really appreciate everyone who contributes to our community. It's time for our offertory. And we want to make sure we're especially grateful to everyone who pledges monthly. A lot of people give online, and we're so grateful for that. Also, we take the opportunity every week to pass around our baskets and collect any offerings anybody would like to give. Part of our offertory is always splitting the plate, so we give half of what's given every Sunday in the baskets to a different charity, and right now we're contributing to the Boa Ogoi Land Restoration Project at the site of the Bear River Massacre in southern Idaho. The Shoshone tribe is working to restore the ecology of Boa Ogoi to what it would have looked like in 1863 when the massacre took place. They are also planning to build the Boa Ogoi Cultural and Interpretive Center that will provide interactive and educational experiences about Shoshone culture and history. So we're really excited to be contributing to that. All right, I just have a few thoughts that I'm going to share with you. So our theme for January has been liberating love. And I'm going to turn to our popular culture for a couple of deep philosophical thoughts about love. If you want to find songs about love, this is the easiest thing to find songs about. But these are a couple of things that have been really meaningful to me. What is love? If you grew up like me and went to high school in the 90s, hopefully you've got some lyrics coming right into your head when I say that. So I'm going to say it one more time, and you're going to repeat the next lines to me, okay? What is love? Good job, good job, good job. Excellent. No more, thank you, exactly. Such a great song. So I looked up I looked up a little of the history of this song. Like I say, that played at every single dance I ever went to in my high school years. It's been very popular for a long time. I looked it up, and it was released 30 years ago this year by Hathaway. And it always was, I don't know, to me, I probably didn't put that much mental energy into it, but it never really made any sense to me. It was always like, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. You know, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like I didn't really understand what those had to do with each other. And it was just recently, as I was thinking about this theme, that it kind of dawned on me how this, what this means. Because one of the deepest meanings of love, of course there are many, many, but one of the deepest meanings of love is indeed our desire to not be hurt by someone else. When we say, I love you, we're saying both, please don't hurt me. Please give me a space where I can be safe with you. And at the same time, I promise to you, I will make a safe space for you. I will not hurt you. I will make you safe. I will make a secure thing or a place together where we can be safe together. I think it's a kind of radical acceptance, really, when we decide to make space for one another, when we decide to keep one another safe. I think as we talk about walls, they have this kind of interesting duality, because in some ways, yes, good walls do make good neighbors. Sometimes we need boundaries. Why? So we can feel safe. So we can know that, okay, inside these boundaries, I will be safe. What can we do when we feel safe? We can be vulnerable. We can express and share those parts of ourselves that we're ashamed of, that we keep hidden, the parts of ourselves that we don't normally display to everyone all the time. When we really love someone and we have a space where we're safe with them, we can be more vulnerable. We can share. And I think even more importantly, we can become our best selves. So now I'm gonna read one more set of lyrics, and I think this is gonna be a theme. I think every time I get up here, I'm gonna try to read something from Frozen, because I did a few weeks ago, for those that might remember. But anyway, this is a different song from the great philosopher Kristen Anderson Lopez. We're not saying you can change him. Of course, this is inside of this is, in the context of Frozen. I won't describe the whole plot to you, whatever. But anyway, they're encouraging some love, right, in this song. We're not saying you can change him through love, because people don't really change. We're only saying that love's a force that's powerful and strange. People make bad choices if they're mad or scared or stressed. Throw a little love their way, and you'll bring out their best. True love brings out their best. So again, it's not that we're really trying to change the other person. It's not that we're hoping they'll become somebody else. But we are hoping to bring out the best in each other, to give each other a safe space where we can be our best selves. And in the next little bit of the lyrics, it says, we need each other to raise us up and round us out. We are all essential to one another. I don't think it's as easy as just saying, make a safe space for each other. If you think about physical space, it's kind of simple, right? You can remove the sharp knives, right? Remove the poisonous drinks or, whatever, right? Make it safe physically. But when we talk about a safe emotional space, it really looks different for each person because each person is going to be triggered or feel unsafe in different ways. So I guess at this point, I just want to encourage us all to think of someone that you love. Think of someone that you would like to love, and think of some way to make the space that you share with them safer for them in their own way, from their perspective. Is there a gift that you can give of kindness? Is there a gift that you can give of safety? Can you give the gift of liberating love?
You've inspired me, Tom. I think there may actually be a sermon in me about the boundaries and the cows. Because I got a lot of cows, I don't know about you, that need fencing. Anyway, years ago, I was in my church in Santa Barbara, it was long before I went into ministry, and one of the worship associates stood up one morning to talk about relationships between human beings, and she started with this quip, and she said, "I love all of humanity. It's just the ones I know personally that I can't stand." And so that's where I would like to sort of set us this morning in our journey through this theme of liberating love. As Tom mentioned, we've considered and explored the idea of, what does it mean to befriend ourselves, to create self-compassion, and in our intimate relationships, our most personal relationships, what is that exchange of love, connection, and safety? And so much of that work is the deep work of what I would like to call within. It's the within work that we do. It involves finding our voices, listening deeply to the sound of the genuine within us, and moving towards what creates meaning and joy in our lives, and discovering resilience when things are tough. These are the kinds of skills that researcher and author Brenda Brown emphasizes in her work, and she writes that if we wish to belong, because love is about belonging as well, right? That if we wish to belong, truly and fully belong, we must have, quote, the courage to share our most authentic selves with people. For our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Truly, it can be said that we do need one another. We have also this month spent some time contemplating what does it mean to be whole in our work for justice. And Cornel West, that wise and adrenaline-filled public speaker, a giant of a theologian, has said, never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. You can't lead the people if you don't love the people. In this community, we recognize that love is essential for the work of liberation, and that we must always ground our social action and our justice efforts in love. We have the within work, and we have the beyond work. And what I'd like to talk about this morning is the among work. Within, among, beyond. And how the experiences that we have within this congregation, within this community, can both enlighten and challenge us to be more than we could ever be on our own. Within, among, and beyond is a three-part categorical container that is used in a lot of theological settings. It helps us to understand who we are, what we love, and therefore, how shall we live together? And I offer it to you not just as a personal consideration for your journey while you walk in and among and beyond this congregation, but also as a frame for our collective endeavors, our collective processes as we enter into this phase of strategic planning and the pledging season, within, among, beyond. When we enter into this space for the first time, we do so by choice. Unlike our families of origin or our work environments or even our neighborhoods that we live in, participation in a Unitarian Universalist congregation is an act of choice and free will. Our opening words on Sunday morning remind us that all are welcome here, and that we are free to be who we are without coercion to a single doctrine or set of creeds. And many, if not all of us, find that rather refreshing when we first come in. And as we continue, it becomes part of a mantra of our community, an ongoing narrative that connects us from time to time with one another. And it reminds us to be open to that process of becoming connected to one another with an open mind, an open heart, and a loving, helping set of hands to support one another. It also means that without a creed, we have to work a little bit harder than maybe a traditional set of congregations might, where we can perhaps point to the wall and see a name maybe painted on the wall. That happened to me one time when I was preaching in hospice. I looked over and there was a name on the wall, and I thought, I don't get to point to that name as a UU minister. So without those guideposts and those signposts, we have to figure it out ourselves. We have to become multilingual in a spiritual sense. We have to learn to be able to speak the language of paganism, humanism, atheism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. You can shout out the other 4,700 that are part of Mormonism and Catholicism and Zoroastrianism and Baha'i. We have to, and we choose to learn not just those big languages writ large, but the personal and internal languages that are shaped and honed inside the body of each person that makes up this congregation. The individual experiences, the hurts and the traumas, the joys, the physical and mental capacities, the injuries, the growth, and the context that we're in. It's a lot of work. This is not a lazy faith. It's not a lazy faith. And to embrace this process requires that we show up for each other again and again and again. And of course, that means in the process of showing up that at times we will hurt each other. To be a part of a congregation over the long term means that you are signing up to be disappointed, annoyed, disillusioned, confused, and frustrated, as much as you were signing up to have opportunities to be delighted, held, inspired, healed, and loved to a greater wholeness. A congregation exists in part to save you from the folly of thinking that everyone else is like you. Our theological ancestor, Francis David, is often credited with saying, we don't have to think alike to love alike. But that is really quite difficult work, if you consider it. We are not the same in how we approach and respond to the world. Again, we each come with a personal history. And many of us enter these spaces with some level of spiritual or religious trauma. And that's important. It's important that we are a space for healing, but it's important that we actually do that healing with, among, and beyond one another. It's vitally important that we each take seriously the wounds and work to create safe spaces where that healing can take place. And if we are not careful, we will just act out our dramas. Our cows will be all over the place, and it will be a real mess in the sanctuary. If you stick around here long enough, you will, I promise, meet your mother, your father, your worst teacher, your most annoying high school classmate, and sometimes, unfortunately, you may also meet a bully or two. Naming this as a potential is important for many reasons. I'll list just a couple. One, naming this as a possibility can help us be less shocked and surprised if and when it does occur. Some folks have said over the years, but this is church. It's supposed to be different here. To that I say, really? What would make that so? Second, if we know that we can and will sometimes hurt one another, we can be prepared when it does happen to ask for help. This is a crucible of learning and growth and transformation, and we have ways to help one another when things go awry. Think about the people that you are connected to in this community, the people that you admire, the people whose counsel you would seek out. These are your people to seek out when you are in danger or you are already headbutting with someone in the congregation. You can also reach out to me. You may not realize, but that's actually what you hired me for, to help you get along. My job most of the time is to help make sure that any conflicts that we have are resolved in a compassionate way with everyone's worth and dignity intact. Years ago, someone told me a story about a church kitchen, how two people got into conflict over where various items were to be stored in said kitchen. Each week, one of the two was in charge of the kitchen, and if the other had previously moved the coffee to their preferred and correct location, the other one would move it back that week. And this apparently went on for some time until one day it finally simmered over into an all-out argument. And this argument was painful enough that one of the parties left the congregation forever, never to return. And the person who relayed this story to me was the one who stayed. And their telling of the story was somewhat triumphant because they had won the kitchen war. And I have heard many such stories as these over the years. Stories of painful breakdowns in communication that have nothing to do with coffee or the color of the paint or the shape of the font on the outside of the building or how the chairs are organized in the sanctuary or whether there's soup or no soup and what kind of soup it might be. Obviously, I hear many of these stories from the people who have witnessed them and stayed. Rarely do I get an opportunity to talk with someone who left as a result of a kitchen nightmare. But when I do, it's heartbreaking. For there's a similarity to those stories of feeling isolated and alone in the midst, within the community, a feeling that if there is breakdown, I am on my own to resolve it. And if there's one thing that I hope you'll remember from this sermon is that you are not, in fact, alone. That we are all in this messy project called congregation together. And that it's likely that whatever conflict you are currently in with another person, be it within this congregation or out in the world, there are probably 7 or 8 different possible actions you could take or outcomes that could be achieved that you haven't even thought of yet. There are likely 7 or 8 different options for how you can go forward than 1 or 2 that you feel are the only available to you. That is the work of within, creating the possibilities for those 7 or 8 or 32 options to come forward. That is one of the premises and the promises of a congregation such as we are. That as a freely associating, justice-loving, and compassionate set of people, we have the choice to make our commitments deeper, broader, more flexible, and more creative and beautiful. And I'd like to suggest that right now, while we are not in conflict as a congregation, while we are feeling pretty good about who we are and where we're going, this is the best time to talk about conflict. Because we're relaxed and we're open to the idea that it might come and it might arrive. Because trying to do it when a conflict has already erupted is pretty tough. Because when things have gone off track, what we have to rely on is the character that we have built along the way. And so now is the time when we have a beautiful stability, for the most part in this congregation, while we have a beautiful stability to think and act and to practice those good skills for conflict, so that when the next existential crisis arrives, hopefully not another pandemic, that we will be even better prepared, that our character as a collective will be strong and true and faithful and loving. Because there is another existential crisis coming, I promise you. And I hope it won't hurt you much. As we finish our listening sessions and our survey as a congregation, we're going to begin crafting our strategic plan based on your feedback and your dreams for this community. And this plan will be the launching pad for the next several years as we seek to build our character as a community. And once we have our strategic plan in place, then we'll be in a position to examine, update, and expand our mission and our covenants. How many of you could recite our current mission statement from heart? Nobody, right? It's on the website. Go ahead, you can go and look it up on your phone right now, but I'll read it for you anyway. We have as a mission of our congregation that we are a community of hope for religious explorers who wish to transform our world into a more just, compassionate, and sustainable place. We embrace diversity and provide opportunities for creativity, spiritual growth, and celebration of life. It's a beautiful statement, right? It's beautiful. I love it. And we've had it for any of my history wonks in the room for South Valley. I think it's at least 10 or 15 years old. And so here's something that I noticed when I read it the first time in the midst of the pandemic. I noticed that it does not name or hold space for resilience, resolve, perseverance, resistance. And I'm curious about that. I wonder if you might be curious with me. What does it mean for us as a community to have been through some of the experiences of the last 4 or 5 years? The insurrection on January 6th, the COVID-19 pandemic, being in a time of climate disruption, racial injustice, with the arrival of artificial intelligence and a political landscape that seems to be backsliding on its democratic commitments. When the legislature hosts and entertains bills that are deeply harmful, as they did this week in our Utah legislature. An anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion bill that will hurt students and put a gag on our public institutions for being the places of progressive, liberating love. And of course, the arrival and return of those dastardly bathroom bills that act as if somehow people having to use the bathroom is a problem. Sophia showed me some cute and snarky t-shirt designs that she is creating for this. So I encourage you to talk to her during social hour. Maybe Sophia, raise your hands, people know who you are. Yeah. I'm going to get one as soon as they're available. This is the context that we live in, and I have a question for us is, who are we in response to that? And should or could or will our next mission statement hold that space, hold that gravitas that we already have and have had the whole time? It's not like we suddenly developed a deeper character. We've had it the whole time, but it seems to me, as the newish minister here, that we haven't named it in our mission statement. And I wonder if it's time to do that. Because I suspect that this next 10 years is not going to be like the last 10 or the 10 before that or the 10 before that. It never is. But especially now, I don't think it will be. We are already fierce, bold, courageous, and kind. We are already deeply compassionate. And we are already the type of community that wants to learn from our missteps, our mistakes, and our misunderstandings. And it is in our DNA to do so. For those of you who are maybe newer to our community and those who have been around for a long time, for those who have been around for at least 15 years, you would remember some times of conflict in the congregation. About 10 years ago, we had a minister, Reverend Sean Dennison, who came to this congregation with great hope and expectation. And their ministry sadly ended a few years later after a series of mistakes, missteps, misunderstandings, and misconstrued actions that led to a lot of distrust and a lot of disappointment on everyone's part. And those took hold of the situation and resulted in their departure. And those of you who were here during that time have shared with me just how painful that time was. The heartbreak was real. And in the aftermath, some people did leave the congregation. Some people stayed. And the whole of the congregation had to decide once again who they would like to be going forward. And out of that, the congregation adopted a covenant of right relationship. How many people know where they can find the covenant of right relationship for this congregation? You can't. You can't find it. It took me 2 years to find it. It was in a binder in my office on like page 47. And it's a beautiful document. But like so many things in church life, it can be forgotten and lost along the way, especially when something comes out of a painful experience. It can be sort of pushed to the side because we'd rather just move on from that. And I'd love to see us change not just that process, but also to resurrect and revise this covenant of right relationship. And I will not read it to you today because it's quite long and quite thorough. But I'd love to see us engage with that in this coming couple of years that we have coming forward to us. And I'm not going to be specific on the timeline because we do things on church time here, not corporate time, right? So it doesn't matter if I said we're going to get it done in 6 months, because that could actually mean 60 years. Hopefully not 60 years. I won't be here in 60 years. But I would love for us to engage in that and to really listen and partner with each other and create something meaningful and then post it, not just in a dusty binder somewhere, but where we all can see it and have it be a living document for our congregation going forward. Because that's what we can do with a within, among, and beyond style of congregation. We can create good containers, those good kinds of walls that keep the cows where they're supposed to be, but are flexible enough to let the trees grow through. So that's what I am inviting us to do. And I hope that if you haven't filled out the survey, you do that right now. And that you come to the listening session afterwards. And by the way, if this is your first time, you can still come to listening session. Like, I would still love to have you there. And I brought cookies. So there you go. That will entice you to come. But let me just leave you with this. This is a beloved community, imperfectly and messily so. But I know that we are already who we seek to be. This is already a place of spiritual seekers, justice makers, and lovers of humankind. May it be so. Amen. Let's sing. Please rise if you're willing and able. In body, mind, or spirit. Look up, be justice. Remain standing as we extinguish our chalice, and I give you the benediction of the week, which is just this. Be yourself. Be your kind, best, most generous, and loving self in those moments where you really don't want to be. And see what happens within, among, and beyond this beloved container called South Valley. Let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of communion, light of truth, the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.